Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India Live, India's voice to the world. I'm Ramesh Ramachandran. Coming up in the next 30 minutes. The US begins withdrawing some troops from its military bases in West Asia after Iran warns of retaliation if it is attacked. The US announces Phase 2 of Gaza's ceasefire plan, forms a 15-member technocratic committee to govern the Palestinian exclave. And Uganda votes in tense presidential and parliamentary elections. Logistical delays disrupt voting in parts of the country amid an internet shutdown. US President Donald Trump has said that Tehran has no plan to execute protesters, but still hasn't ruled out US military action against the Islamic Republic. The US and the UK are both reducing the number of personnel at an airbase in Qatar. Iran has reopened its airspace after a near 5-hour closure that forced airlines to either cancel, reroute or delay some flights. The UN Security Council is scheduled to meet on Thursday for a briefing on the situation in Iran. Here's a report.
The United States is withdrawing some personnel from bases in West Asia. Tehran warned neighbors it would hit American bases if Washington strikes. 2 European officials said US military intervention could come in the next 24 hours. An Israeli official also said it appeared Trump had decided to intervene, though the scope and timing remained unclear. The UN Security Council will meet Thursday afternoon to discuss the situation in Iran. The meeting was requested by the United States amid growing international concern over unrest and escalating tensions involving Iran. At the White House, however, Trump suggested he was adopting a wait-and-see posture towards the crisis. Trump said he has been told that killings in the Iranian government's crackdown on the protests were subsiding and that he believes there is currently no plan for large-scale executions.
We've been told that the killing in Iran is stopping, and it's stopped, and it's stopping. And there's no plan for executions or executions. So I've been told that on good authority. We'll find out about it. I'm sure if it happens, we'll all be very upset, including you will be very upset, but that's just gotten to me, some information that the killing has stopped, that the executions have stopped. They're not going to have an execution, which a lot of people were talking about for the last couple of days. Today was going to be the day of execution.
Tehran had asked US allies in the region to prevent Washington from attacking Iran. Direct contacts between Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi and US Special Envoy Steve Witkoff have been suspended. Araghchi said on Wednesday there is no plan by Iran to hang people when asked about the anti-government protests.
For one reason, they wanted to increase the number of deaths. Why? Because President Trump has said that if there are killings, he would intervene. And they wanted to drag him into this conflict. And that was exactly an Israeli plot. And there is no any hanging today or tomorrow or whatever. I can tell you, I'm confident about that, there is no plan for hanging at all.
Iran reopened its airspace after a near 5-hour closure amid concerns about possible military action between the US and Iran that forced airlines to cancel, reroute, or delay some flights. Iran closed its airspace to all flights except international ones and from Iran with official permission on Wednesday. The notice was removed shortly. Anamika Pandey's report for DD India.
The US has announced the start of the next phase of the Gaza peace plan as a new committee was formed to run the Palestinian exclave. US President Trump's special envoy Steve Witkoff on Wednesday announced the launch of Phase 2 of Trump's 20-point plan to end the Gaza conflict. Witkoff said on X that the second phase establishes a transitional technocratic Palestinian administration in Gaza called the National Committee for the Administration of Gaza. This marks the beginning of the full demilitarization and reconstruction of Gaza. He said that the U.S. expects Hamas to fully comply with its obligations, including the immediate return of the final deceased hostage. He warned that failure to do so will bring serious consequences. Witkoff highlighted the achievements of the earlier stage, saying that Phase 1 had delivered historic humanitarian aid, ensuring the continuation of the ceasefire. He expressed gratitude to regional mediators for their role in advancing the process. Earlier in October 2025, Israel and Hamas accepted the initial stage of Trump's 20-point framework, which includes a ceasefire in their two-year conflict and a deal on the release of Israeli hostages. NATO will not allow Russia or China to use the Arctic region for military purposes, Germany's Defense Minister Boris Pistorius said on Thursday, after Germany said that it would join its European partners in sending soldiers on a reconnaissance mission to Greenland. Germany, France, Sweden and Norway on Wednesday announced the deployments shortly after a Washington, D.C. meeting among U.S., Danish and Greenlandic officials failed to resolve disagreement over the island's future. Meanwhile, Russia has expressed its concern over arrival of NATO forces in Greenland. Another person was shot in the U.S. city of Minneapolis by an agent from the U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement Agency officer on Wednesday. According to law enforcement sources, immigration officers were attempting to make contact with a person when the individual allegedly attempted to attack an officer. The immigration agent fired defensive shots to defend his life. Department of Homeland Security officials confirmed the shooting on X, saying that an illegal alien from Venezuela was targeted for a traffic stop and resisted arrest. Both the officer and the person who was shot were taken to hospital. The shooting surfaced 1 week after U.S. Immigration Customs Enforcement agents shot and killed a 37-year-old woman in Minneapolis during a deportation operation ordered in the city by U.S. President Trump. The Kremlin said on Thursday that the U.S. has still not responded to Russia's recent proposal on nuclear arms control, leaving the future of strategic stability talks uncertain. In a briefing, the Kremlin spokesperson Dmitry Peskov endorsed U.S. President Trump's view that Ukraine's President Zelensky is the main obstacle to achieving peace in Ukraine. Peskov accused President Zelensky of deliberately blocking negotiations and prolonging the conflict.
The situation for the Kyiv regime is getting worse day by day, as we have said, and the room for making a decision is narrowing for them. We said in last year that the time had long come for Zelensky to take responsibility and make the appropriate decision. So far, this has not been done in Kyiv.
Meanwhile, Russia on Thursday expelled a British diplomat allegedly for espionage. Moscow named the British diplomat and said that he was working undercover for Britain's spy service. The diplomat has been given 2 weeks to leave, but London rejected the accusations as malicious and baseless. India on Thursday condoled the deaths of passengers in a train accident in Thailand. New Delhi said that it was deeply saddened by the tragic loss of lives and injuries in the accident on Wednesday in Nakhon Ratchasima province. It extended sympathies to the affected families and wished a speedy recovery to those injured. The tragedy occurred when a construction crane collapsed onto a passing passenger train, causing at least 2 carriages to derail and briefly catch fire. At least 32 people were killed and 66 injured as the cleanup and recovery operations are underway. Another similar accident has been reported near Thailand's capital on Thursday, where a crane collapsed onto a road, crushing 2 vehicles and killing 2 people. Voters in Vancouver waited in long queues on Thursday after polling materials arrived late at a local voting centre. delaying the start of Uganda's presidential and parliamentary elections. People gathered outside the polling station from early morning, many holding their documentation as they waited for machines and ballot boxes to be delivered. Security personnel monitored the area as election officials brought in ballot boxes that were marked the Electoral Commission. The vote takes place as President Yoweri Museveni, who is seeking to extend his rule into a fifth decade, faces a challenge from popular singer-turned-politician Bobi Wine. The election is seen as a test of the 81-year-old Museveni's political strength and his ability to avoid the kind of unrest that has recently shaken neighbors Tanzania and Kenya. Japan's main opposition parties, the Komato and the Constitutional Democratic Party, have agreed to establish a new political party to present a united front against the ruling faction, which they view as increasingly right-leaning. The announcement comes as Prime Minister Takashi Sanai plans to dissolve parliament next week and call a snap election in February to capitalize on her strong approval ratings. Komato ended its 26-year-old alliance with the Liberal Democratic Party last October, after which the LDP formed a coalition with the right-leaning Japan Innovation Party, paving the way for Takashi to become Japan's first woman prime minister. And now take a look at what else is making news around the world. The Philippines and Japan on Thursday signed an agreement allowing for the resupply of fuel and ammunition to each other's forces, with both countries seeking to strengthen security cooperation in response to rising regional tensions. The two countries have deepened their military ties in recent years, with both joining a security partnership with the United States. In Nigeria's Kano, Jamilu Usman is keeping alive a 200-year-old family tradition of producing jaggery, a natural sweetener locally known as Mazar Kwaila, a country that imports 96% of its sugar. Nigeria consumes around 1.5 million metric tons of sugar annually, with the vast majority imported as raw sugar. Rome is introducing a new speed limit of 30 kilometers per hour in its historic center to reduce accidents and pollution. The new limit will be effective from Thursday, nearly halving the previous 50 kilometers per hour restriction. Rome's lower limit follows the example of European capitals such as London, Brussels, Paris and Helsinki. And still to come on DD India Live. The Conference of Speakers and Presiding Officers of the Commonwealth opens in New Delhi. And the US suspends processing of immigrant visas for applicants from 75 countries, including Pakistan.
Can the US launch a bombing campaign against Iran? The Philippines vessel suffered structural damage. The saga of child sexual abuse is the United States China's debt trap strategy. Truth is stranger than fiction. But sometimes hard to uncover. Trust us to tell the truth, unadulterated and pure, of every story that matters to you. You read between the lines, cut the clutter, and connect the dots to get you the full picture. Watch Connecting the Dots at these times with me, only on DD India.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India Live. I'm Ramesh Ramachandran. Prime Minister Modi on Thursday inaugurated and addressed the 28th Conference of Speakers and Presiding Officers of the Commonwealth at Parliament House Complex, the fourth time India is hosting this event. In his address, the Prime Minister highlighted India's success in turning diversity into a democratic strength, countering early doubts about its survival and development post-independence. He said that democratic institutions deliver stability, speed and scale as evidenced by India being the world's fastest growing major economy. The theme of this conference is effective delivery of parliamentary democracy.
ये चौथा अवसर है जब कॉमनवेल्थ स्पीकर्स और प्रिसाइडिंग ऑफिसर्स की कॉन्फ्रेंस भारत में हो रही है। इस बार इस कॉन्फ्रेंस का मुख्य विषय इफेक्टिव डिलीवरी ऑफ पार्लियामेंट्री डेमोक्रेसी है। आप सभी जानते हैं कि जब भारत आजाद हुआ तो उस दौर में ये आशंका व्यक्त की गई थी कि इतनी डाइवर्सिटी में भारत में लोकतंत्र टिक नहीं पाएगा, लेकिन भारत ने इसी डाइवर्सिटी को डेमोक्रेसी की ताकत बना दिया। एक सबसे बड़ी आशंका ये भी थी कि अगर भारत में लोकतंत्र जैसे तैसे टिक भी गया तो भारत किसी भी हालत में विकास नहीं कर पाएगा। लेकिन भारत ने साबित किया कि डेमोक्रेटिक इंस्टीट्यूशंस और डेमोक्रेटिक प्रोसेसेस डेमोक्रेसी के स्टेबिलिटी, स्पीड और स्केल तीनों देते हैं। भारत दुनिया की फास्टेस्ट ग्रोइंग मेजर इकोनॉमी है।
The Prime Minister met with delegates from several Commonwealth nations at the conference, which aims to foster global parliamentary dialogue and cooperation. India's lower house or Lok Sabha Speaker Om Birla held a cordial interaction with Milton Dick, Speaker of the House of Representatives of Australia, underscoring the growing strength of the India-Australia partnership. The interaction highlighted the shared democratic values that bind the two nations and emphasized the importance of parliamentary cooperation in shaping a more inclusive and collaborative future. The two leaders reaffirmed their commitment to deepening institutional engagement and expanding parliamentary exchanges, recognizing the role of legislatures in strengthening bilateral relations. Speaker Om Birla and Milton Dick agreed that people-to-people ties remain the cornerstone of the relationship and pledged to encourage greater collaboration across education, culture and innovation. India is celebrating the 78th Army Day today. Army Day celebrations in the city of Jaipur turned the Pink City's public streets into a showcase of India's military might, modern warfare readiness and self-reliance as the Indian Army displayed its combat power, discipline and cutting-edge technology. The Army Day parade took place at Mahal Road in Jagatpura, marking the first time the event was organized outside a cantonment area. The Chief of Defence Staff, General Anil Chauhan, and Army Chief General Upendra Dwivedi attended the celebrations. The parade showcased the Indian Army's firepower and modernization with displays of the BrahMos cruise missile, the Pinaka multi-barrel rocket launcher, the upgraded BM-21 Grad, Smerch rocket system, M777 ultra-light howitzer and the advanced towed artillery gun system. And after the Army Day parade in Jaipur, Army Chief gave a short statement where he noted on how Operation Sindoor demonstrated Indian Army's ability to respond with speed, coordination and precision.
जयपुर में सेना दिवस का आयोजन सेना को नागरिकों के और करीब लाने का प्रयास है। परेड के अलावा नो योर आर्मी मेला जैसे कार्यक्रमों ने इस संबंध को और मजबूत किया। ऑपरेशन सिंदूर ने एक नया नॉर्मल स्थापित किया है। इस ऑपरेशन ने भारतीय सेना की तेज प्रतिक्रिया, बेहतर समन्वय और सटीक कार्यवाही की क्षमता का दर्शाया है। यह एक परिपक्व, आत्मविश्वासी और जिम्मेदार बल की तस्वीर प्रस्तुत करता है, जो राष्ट्रीय हितों की रक्षा के लिए पूरी तरह सक्षम है।
Minister of State for External Affairs Kirthivardan Singh met Ahmed Abul Gay, the Secretary General of the League of Arab States. Both leaders held productive discussions on India's wide-ranging political, economic and cultural engagements. They welcomed the upcoming second India-Arab Foreign Ministerial meeting scheduled to take place in New Delhi at the end of this month. The U.S. State Department on Wednesday announced a suspension of processing of immigrant visas for applicants from 75 countries. These countries are those whose migrants take welfare from the American people at unacceptable rates. The freeze will remain active until the U.S. can ensure that new immigrants will not extract wealth from the American people. Countries affected by the move include Pakistan, Bangladesh, Afghanistan, Iran, Russia, Somalia, Brazil, Nigeria and Thailand, among others. The State Department has revoked more than 100,000 visas since President Trump took office. The first meeting of the newly formed Central Working Committee of the Nepali Congress concluded in Kathmandu following the party's second Special General Convention, which unanimously elected Gagan Kumar Thapa as the new party president. The coordinator of the Central Election Committee, Sitaram KC, confirmed that Thapa was elected unopposed at the convention organized by the pro-Thapa faction. The Special General Convention, convened on 11th January by NC party leaders who supported the event, unanimously elected a new Central Working Committee under the chairmanship of Thapa. Party leaders Gagan Kumar Thapa and Bishwa Prakash Sharma had taken the initiative to organize the Special General Convention. U.S. space agency NASA's crew safely splashed down in the Pacific Ocean on Thursday after an emergency return from the International Space Station. The unscheduled 10-hour-plus descent was triggered by a serious, undisclosed medical condition affecting one of the four crew. The capsule endured a fiery re-entry before parachuting into calm seas under clear skies. Live footage showed the crew emerging safely from the capsule, greeted by recovery teams. NASA and the private U.S. company SpaceX confirmed that all four crew members are in stable condition and undergoing medical evaluation. On the occasion of Pongal, Prime Minister Modi shared a blog on X reflecting on the Kashi Tamil Sangamam. He recalled his recent visit to Somnath for the Somnath Swabhiman Parv, where people appreciated initiatives such as the Kashi Tamil Sangamam and the Saurashtra Tamil Sangamam. He described the Sangamam as a shining tribute to Ek Bharat Shresth Bharat, celebrating civilizational unity, Tamil culture and youth participation. He wrote, and I quote him here, "The Kashi Tamil Sangamam stands out as a truly distinctive initiative, one that celebrates the living unity of India's many traditions while honoring their unique identities. Kashi's connection with Tamil people and culture is very deep. It is in Kashi that Baba Vishwanath resides, while Tamil Nadu has Rameshwaram. Saint Kumaraguru Parar Swamigal forged a lasting link between Kashi and Tamil Nadu through his spirituality, scholarship and institution building. The fourth edition commenced on 2nd December 2025. The theme picked was very interesting. Tamil Karkalam, learn Tamil. Tolkappiyam, the ancient Tamil literary classic, was translated into 4 Indian languages and 6 foreign languages. A unique event, Sage Agastya vehicle expedition, was undertaken from Tenkasi to Kashi to spread the message of cultural oneness. It illustrates the passion among our Yuva Shakti to deepen their connect with our roots. It's a brilliant platform for them to showcase their talent. The Kashi Tamil Sangamam has delivered meaningful outcomes such as strengthening cultural understanding and people-to-people exchanges. Most importantly, it has furthered the spirit of Ek Bharat Shresth Bharat. This spirit has flourished for centuries through our festivals, literature, music and art. In sports news, Bangladesh Cricket Board Director M. Nazmul Islam was sacked on Thursday and relieved of all responsibilities of the board, including his position as head of the Finance Committee, amid demands from cricketers. On Thursday, the opening match of the Dhaka leg of the Bangladesh Premier League was disrupted by a player boycott, with teams refusing to take the field in Mirpur. The match, due to begin at 1 p.m. local time, was delayed as cricketers stood by the ultimatum demanding the resignation of Najmul Islam. The standoff followed controversial remarks by Najmul, who said players were not entitled to compensation if Bangladesh missed the upcoming ICC Men's T20 World Cup, and suggested the board could demand refunds from cricketers for poor international performances. The comments were widely condemned by players as insulting and dismissive. The stage is set for a blockbuster Africa Cup of Nations final, as the 2021 winner Senegal is set to take on Morocco on Sunday. Youssef Enesri netted the decisive spot kick as host Morocco secured a 4-2 shootout win over Nigeria following their 0-all draw in a tense Africa Cup of Nations semi-final. Meanwhile, Sadio Mane, dramatic goal in the final minutes of the sent Senegal into the Africa Cup of Nations final, edging Egypt 1-0. Morocco, seeking their first continental title in 50 years, will face Senegal in Sunday's summit clash, while Nigeria take on Egypt in the third-place playoff.
Well, it's an amazing final with the best two teams in Africa in the last 3 years. If you tell me in the beginning we can play against Senegal in the final, I tell you it's complicated because big team, good coach. For me, it's a good final for the AFCON, for the publicity about the AFCON.
And that's all for this edition of DD India Live. You can get the latest news on the DD India mobile app on both Android and iOS platforms. Scan the QR code to download it. And we'll be back with more news as it breaks. I'm Ramesh Ramachandran. From all of us here in New Delhi, thanks for watching DD India Live.